I'll let the commander debrief you on that.
Boy, talk about fast and buck.
Yeah, since,
So well on July 4th.
since she but no, I was going to come back from a vacation, and she says, don't you dare, so I didn't come back, I wasn't there.
Oh.
She was in charge.
Loved your neighbor. It was fine. We had the majority of our people out for this event. We covered all of the street closures. Traffic-wise, it was fine. It was a little busy on Powell and Doyle, the crossing there but otherwise, everything else was fairly slow. Roselle from Community Services estimates that there was 1,500, but our people feel there was only about 150 because it was the same people going around and around.
And they had anticipated what, 5,000?
15,000.
15,000 they were talking about.
15,000. And
Or Armageddon.
it was fairly quiet. People's expectation was it was more going to be a festival rather than a walk and bike your neighborhood. They were looking for more activities. Doyle Street Park, which it was the kids zone, there was hardly any people there. The businesses that did come out and participate, like Holistic Institute, yoga,
Right.
they were expecting more participants. The volunteers that were there weren't very well trained in street closures or what to do or what the event was about. So they, as we, all of us here, Dante, all of us made our rounds, talked to them, sort of filled them in. We felt that the organizers of the event weren't what they promised Emeryville as to the number of volunteers, 200 volunteers, 15,000 participants. We didn't see that delivered, neither their street signs, electric signs in regards to the traffic on 40th and Sand, that we wanted saying no northbound San Pablo. Some of the police, AC Transit was not notified, some of their bus drivers did not know, and we had to churn them around, and then they went up Adeline. Adeline was a little bit gridlocked for those wanting to go to Berkeley. But otherwise, there was more people in Oakland, and Oakland side on San Pablo, they had a band there, and they had quite a few participants there. But for the Emeryville portion, it wasn't that many participants. The people on Boudry and Doyle around that area,
Unhappy.
very,
Got
very
a lot of
unhappy.
calls from Boudry and Doyle.
One resident actually just put his car in reverse all the way up.
Wow.
Was just angry. And a lot of Oakland residents weren't notified until the last minute, and they came through the Emeryville sign, and they were not happy either as to the notifications. So,
I can say they did notify AC Transit, so they didn't carry it out, but they were notified.
I don't know, the bus drivers may not have, maybe AC Transit knew, or it didn't get,
Right.
some of the drivers were confused.
The commander was very, very diplomatic about it. My feeling was that the organizers did not deliver anything that they were promising as to the quality of the, not the quality of the
Training of
the training of the people, the number of volunteers that they would have, the fact that they would be trained, the indication that they had, the blessing of Oakland, specifically the Oakland Police Department. None of that materialized. The week before the event, the commander got a call from Captain Toribio, who is in
Right.
charge of this area, asking about the event because it had just come across his desk, and all he was going to be able to have was 2 to 3 officers up there because of other events in that day.
And what was Emeryville's participation from the police department?
We had Paul Hans mustered off almost $4,900 worth of overtime was spent to make sure that the intersections that we felt were going to be a problem were going to be properly manned. Will we, giving the same event next year, the same the same idea that it would be a square walk, we would probably pare way back, knowing what to expect a little bit more. But we geared up for the worst. We geared up for 15,000 people coming there, what it would be, and it didn't materialize. We asked early on in a meeting with the organizers about signage, and the week of, actually I was on vacation when I responded to the guy, Stephen, who was the company they hired, that after discussions with Oakland, they felt that the signage was, Oakland felt that the signage at 54th and San Pablo was adequate. Even though Emeryville didn't feel it was adequate and wanted it at West Mac and San, and I wrote him an email that said, you know, I can understand why Oakland would feel that that was because they're not going to feel the impact of the backup of the people that have to turn around
Right.
and everything else. That's going to occur mainly in our city, which is why we wanted it. I says, but it's duly noted that Oakland merely saying they don't think it's necessary trumps anything that Emeryville says. And he immediately sent back an apology. That wasn't intended, but that's exactly what happened. We expressed some of these concerns at the Transportation Committee meeting. Roselle did attend a debriefing of their organizers in which they thought they met all of what they said that they would. And that it was a great success. Well, it was a great success. No, nobody was hurt. People had a good time. It was a great success. But they're not, they don't have to plan for when it's not a great success, and the cities do. And then the final thing that they did, their application for the encroachment permit for San Pablo, to close San Pablo Avenue, occurred on the 7th?
No, it occurred on the 10th.
The 10th, for an event that was occurring on the 12th. Yet all along they says, well, yeah, we're dealing with Caltrans and it looks favorable and everything else. But the application to Caltrans wasn't made until 2 days before the event. And so those deliverables have us concerned about going forward. I think our recommendation would be don't include Emeryville next year, just do it on San Pablo Avenue, and do it on San Pablo Avenue north of Stanford, from Stanford to 65th, have a street fair up there. Emeryville people can get there. The walk didn't make any sense. There was very little traffic south of, walking traffic south of Powell Street. And although the Doyle Street Cafe may have been made aware of, they didn't make their patrons aware of it. And we had many patrons coming up to go to dinner there that night that we had to turn away. Or that lunch that afternoon that we had to turn away.
It's
So
very popular on the
So
weekends.
a negative impact on the Doyle Street
yeah,
Cafe.
and as well as the residents that were not adequately notified. I mean, in the Spagia email train, they were going that week asking for people to go out and notify them. And we were being told by the organizers that there were going to be notifications made 2 to 3 weeks in advance of this, so that there weren't going to be any people that shouldn't know about it. And that those were just the deliverables that we didn't see.
And I was at a lot of those meetings they had with Jimmy, with Kenny and stuff, and the organizers made all kinds of promises. You know, we'll deliver this, and it was almost as if it was lip service to the city. You know, that what was pushed forward, and also abetted by community resources going through. We're going to do this. We've had this. The chief and the police department asked for a lot of things, the traffic control, the signage. They helped to go with it, and it just wasn't delivered. It was amazing.
You see, I think the council is getting a different story here. And I'm asking you, Ken, do you think it's, this was generated from the Bike Ped Committee. Do you think it's possible that we should present a
We-
recap from the police department
Sure.
aspect to the Bike Ped Committee? They're not meeting in August, they will be meeting in September.
Sure.
But they were very invested in this, very supportive of this, and they've heard kind of glowing reports. But there's more to this, and that directly affects the safety of Emeryville people.
And in addition, Sabrina has directed a debriefing paper be put together that's being
Good.
written by Community Services, but will have input from all of the departments that were involved.
Very good, very good. And that will that be first vetted by the Bike Ped Committee in September, and then the Transportation Committee, and then?
I don't know
Council?
what the timing is on it. So, I do know that we've had 2 meetings scheduled that got canceled at the last minute
Okay.
because of other things.
But it's in the works,
It's in
and
the
I think it's critical we have the debriefing paper, because the idea, the core idea is a good one, but the police department recommendation to confine it to San Pablo Avenue may have some real merit,
Yeah,
but we'll see.
if you look at the idea that was being put forth is that the businesses would get out there and kind of promote their business by doing things in the street. And again, the yoga was the primary example, is that if I have a yoga business, I'll go out and put mats down, and somebody wants to stop, give direction. Kind of like what the Pilates lady did on Park Avenue
Right.
the other night
Right.
for National Night Out. But if you look at Doyle Street, other than the National Holistic Institute, and what business there is really that direct service type of business along that street. And from the Greenway south on Ocean Avenue, National Holistic is the only one. What would have been the attraction is to have the park, but they didn't play up the park, and again, most of the primary displays, the band was on San Pablo Avenue. So we have very little foot traffic on Doyle. And how many people did you run into when you made the walk?
No, we were all estimating.
Yeah, but
14.
as you actually walked, you walked the whole thing.
Oh,
There wasn't anybody, you didn't notice any big of a difference than you would on a Saturday afternoon.
even less,
Yeah, less.
even less.
I could say I video recorded the whole thing. There was very little turnout. Like you say, just a couple of concentrations. I think it should be more of a festival-like and more concentrated, absolutely.
And that's where we're looking at is,
Well, we have the fortunate to be able to contrast 2 events here that took place. The National Night Out, which really, several of these locations really drew out the neighbors. The one in Vallejo Street, the Doyle Hollis at 1500 Park, the Senior Center. These were really attended by Emeryville people to really knowing their neighbors on the street. So here we've expended a considerable amount of the police department time on National Night Out with a real return for Emeryville people as opposed to the Love Our Neighborhood. I think the idea was good, but it was very poorly handled in terms of really working with the police department.
I may be the exception, but I would agree with the feedback that we got is people, for it to be something, it should be more of a festival type thing, not, I'm going to just go up and be able to ride my bike on the streets around this rectangle, or walk this rectangle, and I don't see where that gains a lot of community to it. But if there's a festival that people can come and participate in, I think it would be a great community effort, but again, it's,
Well, I think we beat it to death, but everybody needs to have this feedback, because when they come back again, if they're asking for the same thing, our experience has been that it's probably, it can't be done effectively that way. Okay.
I want to make one more comment on National Night Out. I think you should have something posted all year about National Night Out,